Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Endless Party.
Welcome, friends. We're glad you're here with us as always.
Yes, today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. This episode is going to be called Tidbits
Yep.
because the behind the scenes of our podcast, there's actually a ton of planning
Loads.
and
More than you'd suspect.
And within the planning process, we have all of these ideas that we put to paper.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes some of these ideas will just fall to the wayside because we don't feel like we can do an entire episode just on one of these principles or ideas.
Yeah.
So in this episode, we're going to be sharing just this collection of small little ideas and principles that we've collected over time because we do think that they deserve a chance to be shared. But we're going to do it just kind of in this structure, which is no structure.
Yes.
So there's like no rhyme or reason to the order or how we're sharing them, but we just want to share these things with you because we found them to be really important.
Well, and I would say in addition to that, not only did we find them to be really important, we've seen really successful benefits by implementing them, and that's why we want to share them with you. And like Meg said, there's no rhyme or reason to them, but you'll make the rhyme and reason for yourself and see if you can implement them in your own lives and see the success that we've seen ourselves.
Before we jump in, I actually just want to document, just kind of for us personally, that we're like we're kind of in this phase right now where we've gone through a couple rough days.
Yes.
And I don't bring this up for pity or anything, but I think I just want to be able to look back at this time and hopefully remember where we were, in the future so that I have gratitude for where, how far we've come,
Well, and I would even argue this, like, we turn to principles like this when we do have hard times. And so I think that it's almost poetic that we're doing this podcast episode after we just went through a couple of hard days, because these principles, as well as a million other success principles out there, are what help us stay grounded and help us stay consistent and ultimately help us to keep our podcast alive, to help all of you in the future as well.
Yes. And also one other thing before we jump in is we're going to be sharing some personal experiences, and I just want to put it out there now, like Elijah and I are working really hard on figuring the balance between like disclosing the real life facts of what have happened to us without criticizing or condemning the individuals with whom they've taken place
and without
with.
trying to play the victim.
Yes, but I think there's so much growth in sharing our personal stories.
Yes.
And what we really want to like speak on is the principle behind the story and how we've overcome these challenges through the principle. Yeah. But I think the best way to learn is by like personal examples.
Experience, personal examples. Yeah.
So anyways, all that to say, let's jump in.
Yes. So I'm actually going to share a couple principles that have really, I came to Meg one night and I was like, I just found these, I think it was scrolling on Instagram or something. And this dad shares his experience of the difference between him being a father with his first son and him being a father with his fourth son. And what he talks about is he just says, accept the difficulty. And he goes, and that's the difference. By my fourth son, I just accepted the difficulty. And he said with his first son, he just tried to fight it. He tried to maintain his rigid schedule when it came to exercise, when it came to work, when it came to the relationship with his wife. And he could not do it because he had this son who literally depended on him and his spouse for every little thing. Like, he could not live. That's how babies are, right? Like, they are completely dependent on their caregivers. And he's like, by my fourth son, I just accepted how difficult it was going to be. And by doing so, I was able to not only overcome that difficulty, but grow because of that difficulty. And one of the things I wanted to make mention in this is when we had twins, we started to just die. Like, we fell apart. And I think
it was really
if anybody's listening to this that's listened to our previous ones, they know that within those first 10 days of our babies coming home from the NICU, we didn't sleep. And it was incredibly difficult. It was really hard. And so we started to call parent after parent that had multiples.
Just like, please send us some
Like,
advice,
is
help
there
us make this
anything-
better.
yeah,
This is
anything
so
that
hard.
can help us. And nobody had any advice. Every single person, we talked to people with twins, with triplets.
They're like, it's just really hard.
Yeah, it was
And
like, oh man,
you're like,
I'm
well,
trying
that
to
doesn't
think.
really help.
It's just really hard. And then we talked to the person that had triplets, and the dad just goes, it's going to be really hard for 6 months. If you get to 6 months, you can get through anything. Like, then it's pretty smooth sailing. And that was sound advice. I actually would agree with that.
I appreciate it as like honesty.
But here is the reality that I've come to understand with this advice from the father, from having his first son do his fourth, but also from having identical twin girls. You need to embrace the chaos. That is my number one advice for anybody that is having kids, and especially anybody that is having multiples. You need to embrace the chaos. Embrace how hard it's going to be. Embrace how minimal amount of sleep you'll get. Embrace it all.
I think initially with the twins, we were trying to fight that difficulty, and we were just trying to make everything as normal as possible, as fast as we could. And in doing so, it definitely made it harder.
Yeah.
So I think our advice to people who are having multiples too is, embrace the fact that it's going to be hard. And when it's hard, know that it's okay. And your sense of normalcy will return. But in that difficulty, like, just don't fight it. Just roll with it, and be the best you can be in that day.
Yeah, and I would say not only embrace the chaos and embrace the difficulty, but also be patient with yourself. Like, recognize that what you are going through is really hard and really difficult. And you don't have to be perfect in every area of your life at that given moment. Time will come for you to get back into your fitness groove. Time will come for you to get back into your study habits. XYZ, everything is going to fall back into place. But right now, you have this opportunity to just care for your kids and just relish every moment, even though it's so hard.
Right.
Yeah. So that's number one. Number two, this is the principle that I wish I implemented when our girls were born.
Yes, this would have helped us.
And it's the floor to ceiling principle. And the whole idea encompasses that your best is going to vary from day to day. And you need to, and when it does vary from day to day, you need to set a floor and a ceiling for yourself. So the ceiling being your ideal day. For example, for fitness, my ideal day would be 2.5 hours of exercising. And I'm just grinding. I'm just doing everything that I want to do. My absolute lowest day is my floor day. And the lowest I will do is 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups. That's it. But by doing that, you were able to give your best on that given day. And I think that's what's incredible about the floor to ceiling principle is you never miss, but it is going to fluctuate a little bit for any given day.
And we've been implementing this one for about a week now, and it's actually made leaps and bounds the difference in how you feel,
Yes.
when you hit the pillow at night. Because it's like, actually, something is better than nothing, and it feels... And when you only hit your floor, you still feel satisfied with your day's efforts.
Yeah. Now, that's also not to say that you should
only do your floor.
Yeah, or that you shouldn't be disciplined and execute the things that need to be done on any given day. If you're a professional athlete, your floor and ceiling is going to be completely different from a guy who just had twins 9 months ago, right?
Yes.
So that's not to say that you should live an undisciplined life and just do your floor. It's to say that on the really rough days when it's hard to get to, that's the bare minimum that you do.
It's been 9:30 at night. Elijah and I have just worked through a hard day, but we still hit our floor.
Every time.
It matters.
It matters. And it's just so you remain consistent, that you keep that habit going. And so, with the people that just had kids, set the floor to ceiling for yourself. On any given day, sometimes our babies will sleep for a lot longer or nap for a lot longer.
They don't nap at
and
all.
Some they don't nap at all. And because of that, we're able to set our floor and ceiling. And so when they do take that 2-hour nap, sweet, we get a 2-hour grind session in. But when they don't, all right, we got at least 10 minutes.
Right.
So floor to ceiling, make sure you implement it. Set your own floor, set your own ceiling, and see the success that it has for us as well.
Yeah. So the third thing Elijah talked to me about when he came into our room that night was this idea of agree and one up.
Mm-hmm.
And little did he know that this would be the perfect time to share with me this principle, because this is a principle by, I think you said, Alex Hermosi.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a tactic on how to deal with criticism. So I'll let you share.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool because I think anybody that puts themselves out there, no, in fact, everybody that puts themselves out there is going to be criticized by somebody. And what's so crazy is when Alex explained this, he said he gets criticism like, no, there's no tomorrow. And he says, it's actually kind of cool because I get to practice the principles that I want to implement. And so he expressed how the principles that he was implementing when these people come to him and like, man, you give the lousiest business advice. All he says is, you're right. And he goes, the people kind of take a step back and don't know how to respond because they're like, oh, I thought you were going to, lash back out or say something. But instead he just agreed. And now he's getting to the point where he's agreeing and one-upping. So when they said, oh, you give the lousiest business advice, he goes, you're right. But if you think that's bad, let me tell you about this. And he goes, people are just absolutely dumbfounded. And it's been funny because I've implemented the same practices.
Yes.
And so it's, and I've seen the results. Maybe this is a little catty. If it is, you can let me know in the comments and I'll change my ways. But I remember I was criticized for my sense of style recently. And one of the things that I only work out in Hanes cotton t-shirts because I think white t-shirts, they bleach easy, they don't smell as bad. They're cleaner, it's a tight fit, that's what I like to exercise in. And so a lot of my day I spend my time in these cotton t-shirts because I work out at any time I can. Anyway, so I was criticized for wearing the same black hat, which all of you have seen in these podcasts, and then wearing the Hanes white t-shirts. And so now whenever I'm around the people that criticize me, that is the only outfit I wear. And I have many different outfits. Like I'm not just going by on Walmart t-shirts, there's no shame in that. I love Walmart t-shirts.
It's mostly what our wardrobe is right now.
But I just think there's so much power in embracing that criticism and then going above it and beyond. And so try it for yourself. See for yourself the results because it has actually been awesome to just embrace it.
The agree and one up principle reminds me of something that Jesus actually taught in the Bible, and that is agree with thine adversary quickly.
Right.
And it works.
It does. It really does. It's pretty cool to just see. You can do this in business. You can do this in relationships and just life, whatever you're dealing with.
If you want to nip the criticism in the bud, just agree.
Just agree with it.
People don't really know.
They don't know how to respond. Like the joke that they were trying to make, even though I don't think any joke that belittles another person is a joke, that's just being cruel. But to other people, for whatever reason, belittling others is sometimes a joke. But when you just agree with them, there goes their punchline. It's gone. Like there's no humor in it because everybody's just kind of like, oh, this is super awkward now.
Right.
So just embrace the criticism and then agree with it.
The next thing I want to share is a question I have for all of you, and it's how many of you think you could make $1 million in a year? And then Elijah has a story to share.
So this guy asked this question, and he asked this to a group of audience that he was just speaking to, and he said, how many of you could make $1 million this year? Not a single audience member raised their hands. And then he says, how many of you think could make $1 million this year? If you didn't, you're the closest person to you died. Every hand was raised in that audience. And then he just says, okay, your why didn't change, or your goal didn't change, and the time frame didn't change, but what changed was your why. And so he just expressed how you can then go and make $1 million. The only thing holding you back is your why. Like, what's your reasoning behind it? Why do you want to make $1 million? And he said, as long as it's kind of back to that principle. I can't remember the guy who said the quote, but I think it was Frederick something. And he said, you can endure anyhow if your why is strong enough. And that's the whole idea, is that you can endure anything so long as you have a strong enough why. And so what's holding you back from making $1 million? What's holding you back from starting your business, starting your book, or living the lifestyle that you want to live.
So if you can, come up with a great why behind anything you're doing, then you'll see results.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the next thing, this is one of my favorite things we have learned these past couple weeks. So it's this phrase, downgrade your lifestyle to upgrade your life. And so I was on YouTube, and there was this man who was interviewing these multi-millionaires, very successful people. And this is what one of the millionaires said. He goes, downgrade your lifestyle to upgrade your life. And he expressed that I think it's 3 in 4 millionaires are still living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, 3 out of 4 millionaires are living
still living paycheck to paycheck. And he goes, well, why? And it's because, we all live not within our means. Anyways, but I think I really liked this principle too because, people come into our home. We love to have people here. And sometimes there's this sense of awkwardness in the people who come because we don't have a ton of possessions in our home. We've chosen to sacrifice some of the things we want, so that I'm not explaining this right. We've chosen to just allocate our money in different areas. Mm-hmm. It's we're going to choose to invest in ourselves and our businesses before we decide to invest in the most beautiful and glorious decorations to put in our home. However you choose to spend your money is, on you. But anyways, I liked this because I think it kind of spoke to the lifestyle that we're choosing to live, where it's let's downgrade our lifestyle so that we can upgrade our life and what we choose to do every day.
Yeah, I would agree. It's kind of funny, as Meg was mentioning, people do come into our home and they'll even be like, where's this? Why don't you have this? We don't have a TV in our house. That's not even about money. We could buy a TV, but we're choosing, like Meg said, to allocate our money elsewhere. But also, we don't waste time watching TV. We do our podcast, we work, we put in a lot of effort elsewhere in order to see the success that we want. But it's always so funny to me because these people come in and it's awkward for them.
Yes.
It's not awkward for me.
I'm very proud of our lifestyle.
Yeah, I enjoy our lifestyle. I enjoy what we've chosen to do instead of buying the fanciest car or the fanciest TV. Instead, we bought podcast equipment. We bought a nice camera so that we could film it. We have the resources that we need in order to grow into the people and into the businesses that we want.
Mm-hmm. So I really liked that one.
Yeah.
This next one is really good too. It's this idea that unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments. For the life of me, if you guys know who say all these quotes, please give them credit in the comments. These are not from us.
Right. That one's one of my favorite. Unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments. You need to tell people exactly what you want in life. Exactly. Don't be around the bush, even if it sounds crazy at times. It's funny because Meg gave me this example as we were going through these principles, and she goes, if I want to have an incredible anniversary with you, why would I just expect you to know exactly what I want and then resent you when you don't do what I want? She's like, instead I could say, hey, for our anniversary, I would really like to take a 3-day vacation with you in an Airbnb. You just have to buy me flowers and write me a nice letter. That's all I want for our anniversary. Now I can completely fulfill this need instead of her resenting me for something I didn't even know about.
Right.
And so I think it's cool because so many times in life we also hear that age-old phrase that it's lower your expectations.
And you'll never be disappointed.
That
is so wrong.
And I disagree.
Because they're still there.
Right, because you'll always have them. And so in the back of your mind, you have this resentment because your expectations aren't being met. Mm-hmm. And so in essence, what you should be doing instead is speak your expectations. And if somebody doesn't meet them, that's on them. Mm-hmm. However, now that it's out there, you now won't have this future resentment harboring in your mind.
Yes. I think this principle is especially great within relationships. And especially a marriage,
Right.
Just tell your spouse what
tell
you're
them exactly
expecting.
What you want.
I think, so last Valentine's Day, actually, Elijah's like, what do you want from Valentine's Day? For Valentine's Day, I said, okay, well, this year, all I want is a handwritten note. And on Valentine's Day, I got this handwritten note, and I was so happy. That's exactly what I wanted.
It was a great Valentine's Day.
It was a perfect Valentine's Day.
Speak your expectations.
Yes. This next principle is also one of my favorites ever, and it's by Jordan Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, it is not cool to be the oldest guy at the frat party.
No. It's never cool to be the oldest guy at the frat party. Some of you might know the song Other Side by Macklemore. He also mentions this. He's like, it's not cool to be 25 and living in your parents' basement. And it's true.
Yes.
Okay, like, step up your game. It's all about just being responsible and taking responsibility for your life. It's never cool to be the oldest guy at the frat party.
No.
Ever.
No, and I just don't think you have anything to fear about this. I don't know why it's called settling down, because as soon as we got married,
busier.
our life got full of
Crazy
way
busy.
more events, and
Yes.
it wasn't really settling down. I mean, we're committed and
Yeah.
we have more responsibility, but life is better because
Yes.
we've chosen to, move out of that basement, get married, and start our own thing. So
Yeah.
don't be the oldest person at the frat party. You're not cool.
No, it's not cool at all. Take on more responsibility in your life, and actually your life will be more fulfilling because of it. Getting married and having kids was the best decision I ever made. And quite frankly, it's also the hardest thing I've ever done. Which is so interesting. The hardest thing I've ever done in my life is also the best thing I've ever done. So think about that for a second. The biggest goals, the biggest dreams, the biggest ideals, they take the hardest work, but they're also worth it. And that's what it is to be married. That's what it is to have kids. They're the things that bring me the most joy, but it's also the hardest thing in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I have 3 other people besides myself to provide for, right? But that's a good thing.
Yes. Okay, the next thing we're going to share is this principle that's never be ashamed of being kind.
Mm-hmm.
So I found myself in this situation where I decided that I was going to put myself out there and try to extend kindness to someone who I felt deserved some kindness.
Yeah.
And so I took time out of my day and, got my kids ready, did everything I knew how to do to go and give some time to this person. And when I showed up to, extend this kindness, I was completely rejected and kind of burned. And I felt so stupid for even initially putting myself out there to do something, because in my head the intention, all my intentions were just to be kind and be supportive to this person and the situation that they were working through. And when I got burned, I was so embarrassed, and I just didn't know what to do, because I was it was just so embarrassing that it would just be so, I don't know, it was just so blatantly disregarded, Anyways, and I was talking to Elijah, and he was like, you don't have to ever be ashamed for being kind. And I think I really liked that. And there's another quote I found that goes, never regret being a good person to the wrong people. Your behavior says everything about you, and their behavior says enough about them. And I think that sums it up in its entirety. So
yeah, you should never regret being kind. I've found in my own life, I mean, I'm sure each of you have stories that you could tell, but if ever I've been in an argument with somebody and I've actually been able to keep my emotions in check, and instead of lashing out, but I'm able to bring the conversation back to a leveled playing field, and I was kind, I don't walk away upset. But when I do walk away upset is when I lash out, and I'm angry and I'm upset. It's when I lose control. And so I remember Meg talking to me when she came home. She's like, I don't know why I feel so embarrassed. And that's exactly what I told her. I was like, you should never be ashamed for being kind. It's never a bad thing. You'll never regret it.
And I also think, too, another aspect of that story is when you find yourself with those individuals who are treating you that way, you don't have to keep coming around and keep extending that kindness towards them. You can still be cordial, and of course you can
cordial and kind.
Yes, and you can still be kind as the situation allows or guides, but I don't really think you have to put yourself out there anymore to keep going when this person isn't giving you the respect you deserve.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. This next one hits home. It's never quit. I was about to quit this morning.
No, she wasn't. She just said she was.
I was full transparency. I'm like, that's it. I quit everything. I quit.
It's been pretty cool. I mean, we've talked about this principle since we were blue in the face on this podcast. But the only way to be successful in this life is to keep going, to be consistent, to persist, to persevere, to be disciplined. All of those adult words. That's what it takes to have success in this life. And you just got to keep at it. Always.
And when life hits you hard, because it will.
Always
and when
does.
things go wrong, because they will. I just hope you never quit. Keep your head up, keep persisting, keep believing, even if it's the smallest little fleck of faith that you're choosing to believe in and hold on to. Just do it. Keep going.
Yeah. You'll see the success that you want someday. Maybe not today, but someday.
And maybe not tomorrow, but it'll come.
It'll come. This next principle is kind of cool because I don't remember who exactly said it. Man, I need to write down the people who say these things. But it's kind of this mantra for life, what you should make sure that you're always implementing in order to see just personal growth, personal development, and personal achievement. And it says once every month, do something you would have done in college. And then once a year, do one big thing, like start a podcast. And once every 3 months, start a good new habit. And so this is something we actually want to implement and have started to implement. And it's pretty funny because back in college, me and Meg always did.
We had plans every day of the week.
Every day.
We were out doing something every day.
Nonsense all the time. We went camping. We went to the Salt Flats in Salt Lake City. We did a million different things.
We were always out with friends and just enjoying life.
And now that we have kids, we want to do that same thing. We want to go hiking. We want them to experience those things. And it gives you always something to look forward to. Mm-hmm. An experience to be had. And I think that's so unique and so inspiring.
Yes. So an example of how we've implemented this principle is this has been a big year because 1, we've started our podcast, and 2, we've had our kids. So we're going to count those as our
3 big things this year.
Yes. And then once every 3 months, start a good new habit. So we decided to really master our phones. Mm-hmm. It's been so life-changing.
It's been incredible.
If you're looking for a good new habit to adopt, I would recommend starting there.
Master your phones. The way that we did it was we don't pick them up till noon. They are down by 7.
And if our kids are ever in the room, we're never on them. So
I think those are some guidelines. Obviously, there's some...
Oh, it's going to be different for every home.
And there's some exceptions, right? If you have somebody, a loved one that calls you and wants to catch up, those are exceptions. But,
yes.
We're not crazy.
We're not crazy, but we try to abide by those guidelines.
Yeah.
And this last month, we took a good old trip to Arizona. And that was a big deal. That would have been something we would have done in college.
Oh, easily. It was awesome.
Packed up the kids, packed up the husband.
All the things.
And we traveled all day to Arizona.
Yep.
Anyways, so...
It's an adventure.
This is just a way to keep life refreshing and exciting.
Yeah. So it's something that all of you should implement. Now, this next principle is something that all of you will find if you start persisting towards the dreams and ideals that you want in your life. And it's the road to success is lonely, and you will lose friends along the way, but you will gain true friends along the way. And it's been fascinating how many friends you and I have actually seen kind of go to the wayside ever since we've chosen a different lifestyle than they have. And it's also incredible how many friends that we've gained because of the lifestyle that we've chosen.
And like those friends are irreplaceable. They are people in her life that when we spend time with them, we are genuinely so uplifted and motivated to keep persisting. And I think that's so cool to have genuine friends.
It's inspiring.
I feel like this really is like the first time in my life where my close friends are just so good and they really are my support, and it's just been so nice.
Oh, I agree. I mean, it's pretty inspiring to have those friends. And I've said this before, but I think if you want to find your true friend, it's the person that believes in you. The person that belittles your ideals, that belittles your dreams, that belittles everything that you're aspiring for, is not a true friend. Like, you want somebody that supports you, that has your back, that is willing to help you, even if that help is simply like, hey, keep going. Like, you guys, like, you can do it.
We had a friend who came into our home the other day, and I don't even think she realizes how nice her visit was.
Yeah.
But she came in, and our house was just brighter, and
our house was a mess, mind you.
But
because she was here,
it was just so nice.
Yeah,
and
everything
it was just
about it was like a refresher.
Boost we needed just to keep going a little bit longer.
Yeah. And so that's the impact that true friends can have on you. And so if you can't find those true friends in your life, start being that true friend to other people. They'll come. I promise you, the more friendly you are to others, the more friendly they will be to you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love that. Okay, this next two things I'm going to share really quick is one, this is something I work on a lot, probably every day, and it is being mindful of speaking negativity. Mm-hmm. And we share this all the time, because I think you need to be reminded of it every day. And it really is that your thoughts will determine your outcome.
Yeah.
So if you are speaking negativity and you are speaking doubt into the universe, like, you're going to receive negativity and doubt in your life. Mm-hmm. But if you're choosing to speak positivity and goodness in the universe, that's what life is going to hand you. And it's kind of hard, because I think this next principle kind of ties into this one, is be mindful of like the negative habits you adopt when you're around certain people. Because I've just noticed if we're around people who are very negative, it takes us like days to recover from those interactions, because then we have this bad habit of speaking negatively in our house, and it takes so long for us to like nip it in the bud and replace it with good.
Mm-hmm. It's so easy to fall in the trap of speaking ill of others when other people are doing it around you.
I think it's the natural man within us that makes it that easy.
Yeah, but it is fascinating, because we were around just a group of friends that the whole conversation was just
so bad.
Just speaking ill of other people, and because of that, we started to do the same. And like Meg said, it took us a few days to stop.
It always takes us a while to recover.
Yeah, and I would actually say that your father is a prime example of not engaging in any of these conversations.
My dad is so good at this.
I will say, Dr. Babcock he just leaves the conversation.
He will just pick up and leave and do his own thing.
Yeah, he doesn't say anything.
What's cool too, he doesn't even want to listen.
He doesn't call anybody out either. He just quietly gets up and leaves the situation. And
that's self-control.
That's self-control, because it is so easy to jump and start speaking ill of other people when everyone around you is doing that same thing.
I also think it's just kind of like a social habit. It's like, okay, you're in a social setting, we're all feeling a bit uncomfortable because we're being social. So a way that we can help each other feel better is to start just dogging on everybody else, which is super lame, okay? There's better things to talk about.
There's way better things to converse about. So many more things.
So really notice how you're talking about people and how you're talking about life in general.
So this last principle that we're going to share with you it also comes from Jordan Peterson. And he says, all of your children want nothing more in life than to have the single greatest relationship they can have with you. And he goes, and that's a beautiful thing. That's something to relish, and that's something to work towards. And it's pretty cool because that's all we want with B and Winnie, you know. And it's funny because I'll be laying on the ground, or Meg will be laying on the ground, and they will crawl to us and just want to be around us. And I just think that's a beautiful thing as a parent. You have an opportunity in this world that one person, or if you have many children, they want nothing more than to have a stellar relationship with you. And they are the only people in the world that can say that.
It's so cool.
It is so cool.
On that note, the babies just woke up from their nap.
Our friends just woke up.
So we're going to end here, go get our little friends. But thank you so much for listening today.
We hope these help
I hope
you as
enjoyed
much
the
as they've
tidbits.
helped us as well.
Yes.
So until next time, friends.
Peace.
Peace.